Hey, how we doing, folks? This is Dan Lyman with CitizenAnalyst.net, sitting down with the notorious Facebook champion, God Emperor Trump, and we're going to do a little interview today and get some thoughts about the election and what he's doing on social media and the like. So, how we doing today, God Emperor?
Doing good, doing good. Thanks for having me, Dan.
Excellent, excellent. It's great. So, you're a big fan of Donald Trump. That's really the objective of your page. How did you hear about Trump originally, just as a person, and then when did you really realize, as a politician, that you wanted to support him, and then what really got you to say, "I'm going to start a page"?
Well, it all started, like I think a lot of people, I was a big fan of The Celebrity Apprentice for at least 3 or 4 seasons before he started running. Once he started running, I was a fence sitter. After some of the shenanigans the GOPe pulled over the last several years, I decided that I was done with the GOP. They were clearly not representing the people. And what got me was seeing the God Emperor himself defy the GOP in the first debate and say, you know what? I'm not going to sign your little pledge. I'm going to be the only one to say that I'll run third party if you don't treat me fairly. After that, it was just clear he was not going to play the game by their standards. He was going to set his own rules, go his own way, and do something totally unique that has never been seen before in American politics. And when I started the page, has anybody else gotten completely sick and tired of the Bernie Sanders memes from the dank meme stash? They're the most pathetic, low-quality, useless memes I've seen in my life, and every single idiot on my friends list decided they're going to share them 24 hours a day. So what do? You fight fire with fire. You step it up a notch, and that's always been my goal.
There's no question that the Trump memes are absolutely the dankest memes on the net. And we really have some of the smartest, most creative, funny, offensive, very pro-free speech folks on our side, and they're really putting together some great content. I just, every day I marvel at the wonderful Trump memes that are out there, and the ones that they just slay the opposition. They're so witty. They slay Cuckservatives. I mean, that's kind of this new term that it's a pretty offensive term, but now we've kind of softened it a little bit so that it's not as vulgar as it once was, and now it's just a really great slam on these guys like Ted Cruz and John Kasich. I mean, these guys that are all somehow under the conservative umbrella, Jeb Bush, Lindsey Graham. It's a pretty wide umbrella, except when you want to bring in someone with kind of a nationalistic pro-America message. All of a sudden they're not a true conservative, and I've gotten so sick of that term this year, true conservative. All the people who throw that term around at this point seem to be the people who aren't quite getting it, or they're really kind of opposed to the way that we see things. And clearly the way that we see things is the way that America sees things, especially from the blue-collar voters all the way up through the highly educated ones that are very onto the globalist agenda and what they're doing to destroy the country. So back to the whole meme thing, that's really what you specialize in, and you really put up some of the best, and I really am a huge fan. What's your favorite Trump meme, if you kind of describe it, and we'll find it after the interview.
Oh man, my favorite Trump meme. Well, I'm a big fan of everything that Disdainus Maximus puts out. He's a great guy. He's an admin at God Emperor Trump, and there's a recent one he did of the Donald Trump supporter starter pack. And I think that has to be right up there as number one right about now. The thing is, we're winning the culture war. For the first time in 50 plus years, we're actually winning the culture war. So if you ask me next week what my favorite meme is, I'll have a new one. We're going that strong right now.
It's true. They're endless, and they get better and better. There's always something about the wall, or about deporting illegals, or the ones with the frog. I mean, explain. You probably know this a little bit better. This frog character. That's kind of this weird, like, Reddit,
Pepe.
4chan, Pepe, right? So explain that a little bit.
The earliest Pepe has been traced back to, unless you believe in the internet lore that says he's always been with us and he is a crude representation of the ancient Egyptian Kek. Pepe started in about 2004 as a cute little meme, and he's evolved over the years. You could probably find the evolution of when did everything go so right? And he's really an anamorphous character that explains who is the internet community. The internet community sees themselves through Pepe. It started out just a simple little meme. Eventually, it became sort of a banner holder of the board R9K and a little bit of poll and a lot of Reddit. Reddit loves anything 4chan finds first. After that, things kind of evolved. He became symbolistic of sort of the emotional well-being of people. There's all the many Pepe crying memes that are out there. And then something magical happened. Somebody on 4chan's poll decided to stencil or create a Pepe Trump. And all of a sudden, this became quite popular on 4chan because, repurpose an existing meme for our favorite political candidates. And they started featuring them in the Can't Stump the Trump videos. If you haven't seen Can't Stump the Trump, it's where Centipede comes from. It's probably the most popular Trump videos on the planet, aside from his speeches themselves. And they were put on Twitter. And Trump actually retweeted a picture of Pepe Trump with the Can't Stump the Trump, I believe it was volume 7. And so when the God Emperor himself smiles on your meme, you have to stand by it. You have to make that the most popular meme out there.
No question. My favorite Pepe meme is I think it's a 4 panel, and it's him scratching his chin and thinking, and he's about to do something very devious, and then it has the mouth up by the ear, and he whispers in the tiniest little letters, "Wall," and then it cuts to a scene of all the Bernie freaks, pushing against the police and trying to freak out, and they're holding up their signs and love Trump's hate and all that stuff, and they're just losing it. And that's one of my favorites. So I'll put that one up here as well. So something you mentioned. Oh, right there. So God Emperor. The first time that I read that term, it was a VDare article sent in by someone that had been in one of the Milo speeches on the campuses, where one of the early ones where everyone freaked out and the feminists were smearing blood on their faces and everyone was screaming and whistling and all that. And the kid wrote in the article, he had been at the event. He said he was the one that started the Trump chant to silence the opposition, and he mentioned something about I felt the energy of God King Emperor Trump well up inside me, and I just began chanting Trump. And obviously, it's just like it's a funny term, and someone on the left might see that and see it as like this Hitlerian kind of figurehead that we're all worshiping, but it's all tongue in cheek. We all get it. It's in a way, it is a way of paying respect, but at the same time, we are using this humor that we know inflames the left even more just by using that term. Would you say so?
Well, not just the left, but the Cuckservatives hate it. I can't tell you how many messages we get. How dare you use the name of God in vain? Now, originally, I think it's important to know one of the first things memed on the internet, to use that as a verb, was God Emperor Trump from Warhammer 40K. It's a old-fashioned tabletop game. Eventually, it was made into a computer game. A new computer game was just released, I believe, in late May. That's in the Total War series. And the God Emperor is a political leader who goes on to become the most symbolistic person for humanity within this fictional universe. And so naturally, what do you do when you have somebody who is smashing through the political paradigm, going his own way, doing everything by his own standards, and winning? God Emperor Trump, why not?
Winning, exactly. So along those same lines, I think you brought up a great point there, is that not only have we exposed the left and continue to for being they've gotten so rabid and so insane, but we've also exposed what I consider the conservative SJWs on our side of things. Supposedly, now we know they're not. We know where the new political paradigm is completely different than it was a year ago. And even though a lot of us realized that early on or a while ago, it's taken Trump to shine the light into these dark corners that were supposedly on our side of the fence, and now we know they're not. So how would you address that, and then maybe talk a little bit about the alt-right, this new phenomenon that really is like the cultural driving force behind Trump?
Well, Milo Yiannopoulos calls it cultural libertarianism, which I think is a fairly good term because it's about laughing. You have to laugh at yourselves. You have to laugh at the enemy. And if you can't stand to have a little bit of humor, a little bit of fun, a little bit of orneriness, naughtiness, you're not going to win the culture war. The most important thing right now is winning this on a cultural level. It doesn't matter if you get the votes. I think George W. Bush proved that. It doesn't matter if you get the votes. You have to win culturally. If you can't make it fun, if you can't make it interesting, you're not going to win. That's why, and the modern conservatives, the Cuckservatives, they think that the way to do that, okay, well, we'll just adopt everything the left does, but then will hold on to this one little piece of conservatism, this one little piece of the right. And so I think that's what the alt-right is. The alt-right is a giant umbrella term. You get people who are very nationalistic, who love the alt-right. You get people who consider themselves anarcho-capitalists, who call themselves the alt-right. What I think it means is anybody right of center, okay, not just right of center, because the center has shifted so far to the left. Anyone who considers themselves a classical liberal, anybody who considers themselves a modern conservative, but didn't like Jeb Bush, they're in the alt-right. Whether they know it or not, they're in the alt-right now.
Definitely, there's the paleo conservatives, like you said, the nationalists. Um, if you go really hard to the right with the alt-right, there are a few of the people that maybe we don't want to associate with because they're a little crazy. The ones that they would try to paint us all as when that's not the reality. That's that little fringe element.
Well, and what would the left do if they had somebody like that? First, unless they're going to, it's a Saul Alinsky type deal where they're going to hide it and pretend like they don't like them, the left would ostracize these people. The left would force them out into the cold, and that's when they really become radical. That's when dangerous things start to happen. On the alt-right, we laugh at them. We laugh with them when appropriate, but we laugh at them. We laugh at the new National Socialism movement. We say, what are you, morons? You're Bernie Sanders light. That's the way you win. You don't alienate them, you laugh.
Right. They claim to be, again, all their big message when they come to these Trump rallies is that they're against hate. They really are some of the most hateful people I've ever seen. I was at the Trump rally that came closest to me, which was in Spokane, Washington. Fortunately, a small market, but there were still a few of the crazies out there, and they're all out with the Mexican flags and Cuba hats on, and it's clear that there is this divide between these people who believe in the America First message, and that's really what I think is the essence of Trump, and it has been for decades, and the other side of things where these people really loathe America. And when you look at Trump's message, make America great again, but then you look at Bernie's a future we can believe in. There's no mention of America. There's no mention of the greatness of American culture. And so there's that defining line between us. And that's where I think the new political paradigm really exists. So you have these people that are protesting at Trump rallies. There are the same exact people that are disrupting Milo Yiannopoulos events. There are other examples out there, but those are really the two most well-known right now.
What do
Well,
you
and
think?
I'll disagree because
Okay.
the people at the Trump rallies, they're paid. And we don't know how many are paid. We do know that on Craigslist, you can go look in almost any city where Trump will hold a rally, and you can get paid $15 an hour to go protest Trump. In fact, if you're unshaven, you'd do great. You'd be in for shoo-in. You get a premium if you come in unshaven, looking like crap in a torn T-shirt, and they'll give you Bernie Sanders signs. They'll give you Bernie Sanders stickers. So we can say it's Sanders, and it may well be a lot of Sanders supporters that just have nothing better to do because they're unemployed and they're waiting for their messiah to come in and give them free stuff. So they show up at Trump rallies. But I think the majority of the violent people, the majority of the obnoxious people, the majority of the people who end up getting escorted out, they have to be paid. These people are not that moronic. Nobody's going to risk getting jail time just to get their views out there. These people are definitely getting a payment. Now, with Milo Yiannopoulos, these are the most hilariously memeable social justice warriors at college campuses. And those people, I don't think they would get paid by the likes of Soros or Hillary Clinton. I think they're that incompetent. You've got Trigglypuff yelling, get your hate speech off this campus. That's pure mental midget getting out there and showing exactly how stupid she is. And more importantly, exactly how low the bar is to get into the modern university when they let Trigglypuff in.
It's true. They seem to be, they do seem to be maybe like a derivative of, maybe because they're a little younger. I'm not sure what the criteria is, but in terms of ideology, they're all buying into the same social justice warrior, cultural Marxism, where you have this cross section of let's say feminists, Black Lives Matter, some illegal aliens, people buying into the socialist agenda. They're all like deranged. So yeah, a lot of the ones going out to the Trump rallies is probably especially the ones that are committing pretty heinous acts of violence at this point are getting a paycheck, and maybe at the Milo events, maybe they're aspiring to that, or maybe that's what they do in their free time when they're not getting paid to be at a Trump rally. But they do seem to be getting more aggressive even at the Yiannopoulos events where they blocked off UCLA for a couple of hours. They stormed the stage at DePaul. So there's this derangement syndrome that is blanketed across all of these people that I find to be pretty disturbing. You actually referred back to the Sanders supporters, and they were kind of putting out these crappy memes. But I think a lot of those people, once they get over the burn that they've been feeling, Once they realize, and I think a lot of them already are, is that the system is so corrupt that even their hallowed candidate, who is actually doing much better than Hillary by all metrics, except for at the voting box, which we could speculate as to why that's the case, but generally much more popular. They realize the system is so corrupt, but that it's even more angry at Trump than it is at Sanders. I think that a lot of these people, and the polling does support this hypothesis. A lot of them will come to Team Trump reluctantly, but because they just hate Hillary that much and they need a bit of a culture spice to their life.
Well, this is like imagining that if Ted Cruz had won the nomination, which thank God that won't happen. It's like imagining that the Trump people would go over to Ted Cruz. There's nothing enticing about Hillary for the Bernie people. There's just like there's nothing enticing about Cruz for the Trump people. Hillary is a fixture of establishment politics. She's easily one of the most corrupt people in modern times. And her husband, her drug-addled, possibly HIV positive husband, Bill Clinton, is a rapist, a well-known rapist who has illegitimate children that he refuses to acknowledge. Bernie claims to be the moral candidate. You can argue that to the cows come home, but you can definitely say that there is no way Bernie is anywhere near as immoral as Hillary. So I think you're right. I think, the one poll, I believe it was in maybe Virginia, said that 40% of Bernie supporters will vote Trump if Bernie doesn't win. And I can't imagine the other 60% are going to go get in line behind Hillary. I think a good amount of them are going to stay home. They're going to vote Jill Stein for the Green Party, or they're going to, I don't know. Maybe they will vote Hillary. Maybe they'll hold their nose because they believe the anti-Trump propaganda, and they'll say, "Well, Hillary's better than Trump." But I think you're right. I think these are people who, first of all, they're big in their online community, and once that vanishes, when it becomes clear that Bernie has no future, I think they're going to want a new home. And I think I'm already seeing it. You can see it all over God Emperor Trump. We try to be kind to the Bernie supporters. We try to welcome them with open arms, and we've gotten people who now say, we're there now. We're on the Trump train. Bernie's no longer my number one. He was a nice guy, but I was young. I was stupid. It was 2 months ago. I've grown.
They grow up so fast, don't they? The little
which,
burners.
which is strange for socialists. They don't usually grow at all.
I saw a great meme the other day. It was a mother with a child, and the child says, "Mom, when I grow up, I want to be a socialist." And she says, "You have to pick one or the other."
That's one of ours. Sit from a supporter from Brazil, believe it or not. Brazil is one of the most, they've seen firsthand over the last couple of years what socialism does. Not only what socialism does, but what happens when you elect the first woman president who happens to also be a socialist. And there's a shocking international audience on God Emperor Trump. The second most engaged user base is actually Brazil. So if you want to look at what happens under socialism, that's what they all flee to God Emperor Trump is what happens.
Yeah, I mean, it's not about the woman thing to me. I don't. There aren't too many great female leaders as opposed to male leaders, and I'm not opposed to a female leader at all. Marine Le Pen is great. She's in France. She's doing a great job. So is her niece, if I'm not mistaken. I have no problem with Trump picking a female VP if she's qualified. I've heard some talk of Joni Ernst. I think that would be fantastic. But the concept of electing a female as president or leader of the country simply because she's a female is so absurd to me, and it's so sexist at the same time. And these are the same people that are so anti-sexist. Look what Angela Merkel is doing to Germany, destroying the place. Look at what's happening in Brazil. She's destroying the place. She's actually going to be impeached, if I'm not mistaken. She'll be standing trial soon, which is great. It's encouraging. But when I see these vapid, insipid feminist women who are supporting Hillary simply for that reason alone, you realize just how dumb and empty they are.
Well, that's exactly right. And you bring up the valid point that if there were a qualified woman running, I mean, by all means, she could be the God Empress. If Ivanka Trump wants to run in 2024, she'll get my page behind her 100% because she's just, a slightly more socially moderate version of her father. That's not what we see with Hillary. We see a woman who gets on stage repeatedly in event after event all over the country and says, well, one of my most impressive accomplishments is that I'm a woman. In fact, there was a video released by, I believe, VidMax, which is one of the largest alt-right video pages, that was a montage of Hillary saying, well, these people are going to vote for me because I'm a woman, because I'm a woman, because I'm a woman. Well, I'm a woman. Well, I think it would be great to have the first woman president. It was removed by Facebook for hate speech.
Maybe it was technically hate speech because it's Hillary hating on men, but that's obviously not why they would remove it.
Good
So
point.
we're past the 20-minute mark, so I do want to wrap this up, and I want to get your final thoughts here. tell me, define to me what Donald Trump is to you, why you support him, not just culturally, but what are some of the things in his platform that you find to be his strongest elements that really make you feel so strongly about what he could do for the country?
Well, first, I have to give the cultural argument again, because he is smashing through the politically correct paradigm. He's tearing the Republican Party asunder so he can then rebuild it from the ground up under what are actually conservative principles. Now, what do I like about Trump? I like that he wants to secure our borders. He wants to stop the constant flow of illegal immigrants. I've seen people lose jobs. I've seen factories close because the jobs aren't here anymore. They're all south of the border. They're all in China. That's another part. Trade deals. 4 years ago, there was a candidate, started with an R and ended with a P, who said we shouldn't have trade deals because every trade deal that is ever signed into law is anti-American. Now, Trump comes in and he says, well, you know what? We just got to get a better deal. Who better than the man who wrote The Art of the Deal? Further than that, who but Trump? And he hasn't said this yet, but there's talk of him endorsing Paul Ryan's opponents. Who else could fix the Republican Party? I mean, if he does the first 2 years of his campaign doing nothing but campaigning for the non-Cuckservative candidates, we can actually have a party, we can actually have a Congress that will work for the people.
Yeah, there's a lot of there's a lot of potential for the Trump effect, which is what I call it. I think a lot of people do, to trickle down from the presidential level all the way down through the federal level and all the way down to the local level, just like you said. And I think a lot of people underestimate that, is that when we go to the polls in November, we're not just voting for president. We're voting for new Congress people, new senators, people at the local level, sheriffs. I mean, it's across the board. So I think that if a lot of these people come out as never Trumpers or they come out as being GOPe, hardcore establishment, conservative types, we're flushing.
They're done.
Exactly.
They're done.
We're flushing them out. Just like Paul Nealon, I think, is a perfect example. I think that's what you were getting at. So great, excellent. So just give us your Facebook and where we can find you online if you have a Twitter or anything like that.
Facebook.com/God Emperor Trump. And you can also find us on YouTube. Just search God Emperor Trump. We upload all our videos there and also to Facebook. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, God Emperor Trump. We'll be talking soon.